As we continue the series in the long anticipation for the 40th anniversary of WrestleMania, up next is WrestleMania 2, one of the most unique WrestleManias in history. WrestleMania 2 was actually on a Monday, the only time a WrestleMania has ever taken place on a weekday. The event took place on April 7, 1986 in 3 different venues: Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum in New York, the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago, and at the Los Angeles Memorial Sports Arena in LA. The LA Arena was used again in 1991 for WrestleMania 7. It also marked the first WrestleMania that was on pay-per-view, which meant it could be seen by the general public at home, while CCTV was still very active for those who wanted to see it at venues. The show would host 12 matches, 4 matches for each venue, and brought in 24 celebrities with big names like Elvira, Joan Rivers, Ozzy Osbourne, and Ray Charles. The event also brought in 6 NFL players to join the 20-man Battle Royal and even featured a so-called boxing match between Rowdy Roddy Piper and Mr. T, which brought in the former heavyweight champion Smokin Joe Frazier to the show. There was no doubt that Vince McMahon was envisioning a bigger WrestleMania and solidified the idea of sports entertainment for good. But perhaps this was too excessive, and WrestleMania would never split between different venues again. The main event was Hulk Hogan defending the WWF Championship against King Kong Bundy in a steel cage. On commentary, we have celebrities involved, and leading the show in New York was Vince McMahon, in Chicago was Mean Gene and Gorilla Monsoon, and in Los Angeles was Jesse Ventura and Lord Alfred Hayes. In our version of WrestleMania 2, we would keep the 3 venues since it showed utter domination of the old territory system, especially since this event happened after the fall of Pro Wrestling USA, a promotion that briefly united the AWA, NWA, and JCP. However, we feel that having way too many celebrities was unnecessary, especially Burger King's Herb. It's estimated that each celebrity received a $12,000 advance to appear. We could save some of that money by cutting the number of them brought in by half. New York. Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff versus Dawn, the Magnificent, Morocco. Orndorff is the babyface here, and we would keep the bounty storyline going, except now Heenan puts up $100,000 and Morocco accepts the challenge on TNT. Instead of the ridiculous double DQ finish, we would have Mr. Wonderful go over. He pins Morocco holding onto his tights during a roll-up. Macho Man Randy Savage, C. versus George, the Animal, Steele for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. The match needs no change as Savage retains the title. Jake the Snake Roberts versus Pedro Morales. Instead of a jobber, Jake would face off against a big name in former WWF champion Pedro Morales to get a bigger push. Jake lands a big DDT for an upset win. He rolls Damien over Morales after the match, who foams from his mouth. Disgusted at what happened, former WWF champion Bruno Sammartino, who was watching at ringside, runs in and starts a fight with Jake till officials breaking them up. Rowdy Roddy Piper versus Mr. T in a boxing match. No change needed, it was a quick match with Piper losing after slamming Mr. T. It was silly, and only done so Piper couldn't lose in a wrestling match. Chicago. The Fabulous Moolah, C. versus Velvet McIntyre for the WWF Women's Championship. We would have Velvet go over instead of Moolah with a big splash to become the new women's champion. She was good enough to have a short title run. Corporal Kirchner versus Nikolai Volkov in a flag match. No change needed for this match as the Corporal gets the pinfall win. Andre the Giant and Big John Studd versus Team NFL. William the Fridge Perry, Jimbo Covert, Harvey Martin, Bill Fralick, and Russ Francis in a handicap match. Instead of the Battle Royal, the setup for this match is William Perry, who helped the Chicago Bears win the Super Bowl, challenges the giants of professional wrestling to see who are the superior athletes. Both Andre and Studd hate each other with a passion, but are thrown into the match to have to work together to defend pro wrestling. Studd and Andre get the upper hand, but whenever they go for a pinfall, their teammate would stop them till they begin to fight each other outside of the ring, giving the NFL team a count-out win. The Dream Team, C. versus the British Bulldogs for the WWF Tag Team Championships. No change needed for the match as the Bulldogs win the WWF Tag titles, ending the Dream Team streak. Los Angeles. Ricky Steamboat versus Adrian Adonis. Rather than with Hercules, Ricky gets into a feud with Adonis back when Adonis became the Adorable One in January, and Ricky gets into an altercation about his changed look. We would have these two feuds since then. Ricky manages to get in a flying body press for the pin and win. The Hart Foundation versus Hillbilly Jim and Uncle Elmer in a tag team match. We would have this match set instead of Adonis and Elmer. The Hart Foundation get the win when Bret Hart pins Hillbilly using his feet on the ropes for leverage. Terry and Haas Funk versus Junkyard Dog and Tito Santana. We would keep this the same. Tito and JYD were strong babyfaces and teaming up for this match was a treat. The Funks won that night by use of a megaphone. Hulk Hogan, C. versus King Kong Bundy for the WWF Heavyweight Championship. In this main event we would not have a steel cage match. Although Randy Savage was originally thought of as Hulk's opponent, Bundy was the right guy at the time. As much as cage matches are usually meant to end feuds, we feel that this could go on longer and it would be better to go with a grudge match. Hulk was injured back at Saturday night's main event due to Bundy, and we would play it off that Hogan is wrestling despite defying doctor's orders and that it's unsanctioned. Hogan's injuries would be a big part of the match, as he would sell it more often than he originally did, even failing to bodyslam Bundy early on. Hogan eventually turns the tide by slamming Bundy on the concrete on the outside and dragging him back in the ring for the leg drop finisher. Hogan still sells the injury even as he retains the title. What did you think of the changes made? Stay tuned for WrestleMania 3. Comment, like, subscribe, and thank you for watching In the Plot.